So there is a tremendous amount of information, and since you said the magic word links, I know you're setting up a website which will have much more information, including Robin's photographs, hopefully.
Yeah.
So what's the address of that?
Yeah, so the project is going to be up, I think, pretty soon on a website that is already up. The website is caminominga.com, CaminoMinga.com, Camino Minga. And it's a website, a project intended to actually continue to discuss and for activists to go look at these interviews, right, from the voices of social movement members and leaders in Colombia, at the SOA Watch, and also here in the United States. I think it's important to continue to kind of draw on the connections, right? People in Latin America are going through struggles that we are going through struggles in similar ways here too, and similar in different ways, and so that's what we're trying to draw attention to, and in some way that's a way to continue that solidarity, you know.
So what was the reaction of? Did you have interactions with local people on the U.S. side?
So I met a few people in this journey. One of them was a gentleman named Manny, who was an undocumented immigrant from Mexico, and he traveled here by train, but not inside of the train, on top of the train, which is a very risky and very dangerous way to migrate.
Sure.
However, he did it, and now he has a very lucrative career, and he's kind of that story that he quote unquote made it, but he doesn't forget where he comes from. He doesn't forget the struggles that he faced and the struggles that he still faces as a Mexican man in this country. Another woman I met was Sister Patty, and I don't remember the congregation she was from, but it was based in Baltimore, Maryland. She did humanitarian work and social activism work in Honduras and El Salvador. And just talking to her, we were in a workshop. That was the workshop with that they were discussing Berta Caceres. Mm-hmm. And she was just telling me about her experiences, and she spoke fluent Spanish, which was neat because she was a white older woman, but her impact, you can just tell how passionate she was about the work that she was doing. She was passionate about SOA Watch and what they were doing, and those two people really, I mean, I came back and I told my friends about the trip, and they really restored my faith in humanity. You see the election, you see how people are just going at each other. Like, there's just so much hate in the world, and then you meet people like Manny or Sister Patty, and you see the work that they're doing and how they're giving back, and it makes you realize that it's not like the things I'm doing aren't hopeless. Like, I can still have an impact on someone's life. I can still make a change despite everything that's going on in this world. So that was a really, really fascinating experience. Yeah,
it was also interesting to one of the things that happened at the beginning of the convergence was sort of like a protest in front of the detention center. Yeah. And this was about an hour and a half away from Nogales. But it was powerful, and it was just so beautiful to see so much solidarity, but also kind of learning of the things that are happening in Arizona with just kind of like random detentions of people just because they don't have an ID, yeah. And so they're arrested and they are put in jail, sometimes for a very long time without any recourse to justice.
So that bill that was introduced is called SB 1070, formerly known as 1070 in Arizona, and it's a law that mandates law enforcement to racially profile or if they have a reasonable suspicion to pull over someone that resembles Latin American or Mexican descent. That bill has been instrumental in the increase in detention of Mexican American people of color, essentially, in Arizona specifically. When we were at the detention center, I was kind of trying to put everything that I was researching about SB 1070 together with what I saw, and how United States policy disguises the incarceration of immigrants is through the word detention. So there's really no difference. There's no fundamental difference between detention and incarceration, but instead we label it detention center as opposed to incarceration or jails. But yeah, so my research is about SB 1070 and how it's technically unconstitutional, and it erodes, basically every fundamental right that this country, quote unquote, stands for.
And one of the ironies of it is that so much of the local population on the U.S. side of the border is of Mexican descent.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so they can get stopped also.
Yeah, and this is also important to say that it's an issue that doesn't just happen at the border, right?
Yeah.
We have sort of like these detention centers and these policies basically happening pretty much all across the country. And we have here close to us, we have a detention center in Batavia, New York, and we have a detention center near us in Berks, Pennsylvania. And over the summer there was, and that's a family detention center where women and children are detained, and in the process of like going through the deportation process, right? But this summer the women there were 22 women who went on hunger strike because they had been there for a very long time without any really kind of indication of like where their process was and what was going to happen to them, right? And so it was they were seeing how brutal they were being treated, but also their kids, their children, that were the impact of being in a detention center, seeing their moms sort of like go through that detention and the treatment that happens there was is part of also the story, right, that needs to be told. One of the neat things about the visit to the detention center, or like the vigil outside the detention center, was that there was a really important aspect to it, was that we wouldn't get too close to the detention center because there was a lot of police officers there, but when it started to get dark, they were like with candles, and they walked and they sort of like made a line right in front of the detention center, and from inside you could see that the prisoners were the people were like kind of like going with sheets, that they could see that in solidarity, right? They were also turning the lights on and off just to say, we see you, and we are glad that there's this effort, right? Many of the people that spoke at the vigil outside were family members of either men or women who were detained at that detention center, and who called attention to the fact that there's so much mistreatment happening there.